Welcome back to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Well, the long-standing clamor for the creation of a second tier to the Nigerian police system at the state level got its biggest push yet in 2024. Governors of the 36 states of the Federation made it a point of duty to keep the conversation at the center of national discourse. Earlier this month, at a meeting of the National Executive Council in Abuja, the governors declared their collective support for the multi-layer policing initiated by the federal government to address what they called persistent security challenges. Joining me now is Professor Rotimi from the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. Professor Rotimi is the author of the book, The Police in a Federal State, The Nigerian Experience. Professor Rotimi, thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
Well, Professor Rotimi, what is it that is wrong with the present structure of policing in Nigeria that will seem to necessitate the clamor, as it will appear, for state police?
Now, the voice is not coming out well.
Hello, can you hear me?
His voice is faint.
Okay, we'll take a short break now while we quickly sort out that audio connection with Professor Rotimi in our Abuja studio. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show. Our guest is still Professor Rotimi, author of The Police in a Federal State, the Nigerian Experience. Professor Rotimi, can you hear me clearly now? One of the major events in 2024.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the major events in the year 2024 was this, what seems to be an emerging consensus on state police by 36 states of the Federation. And by government, it will appear. Now, what is it that is wrong with the structure of policing now that you think, necessitates this clamor for state police?
What is wrong with the current structure? One, inadequate personnel, not enough boots on ground. Two, poor equipment. Three, not enough socialization into the culture of policing and the way the police should relate to the public. But the major problem is the inadequate number. Everything considered, the number which is never fixed puts the personnel of the Nigeria Police Force serving a population of 200 million at about 370 of less than 400,000. Unfortunately, the attempts since the Obasanjo period to increase the number have been met with various challenges. And laughably enough, some of the challenges coming from the police high command. Some drama over recruitment of even recruits 10,000 per year. What happened was that for so very long, especially after the Civil War, there was no recruitment to the Nigeria Police Force. And because of the challenges of the immediate post-war period, the military stepped into police duties. And as they did, police budget also went to military business. The little that was getting to the Nigeria Police Force was mismanaged or not properly managed by the high command. I'll pause for now. If you need elaboration, I'll give it.
Well, but
so, inadequate personnel.
But how will state police correct all of these omissions that you have pointed out, considering the fact that these state governments that will probably control this state police, they will probably have problems of funding. States that cannot even pay new national minimum wage, they're going to take on additional bureaucracy. How about the cost of the initiative?
Funding of state police can never be an issue. And I repeat, can never and should never be an issue. And what I will explain this way. Just with the cases of two immediate past governors of states, and since the thing is already in the public domain, I cannot hide their names. The Taraba state governor, the Kogi state governor are now on trial by the EFCC. When you look at the quantum of money they are alleged to have mismanaged, you begin to wonder, if they were to own state police, would they spend more than that on the police that they own in their states? The answer is no. So it's a question of how do states manage their resources. And to be fair, the support that some state governments have been giving to the Nigeria Police Force over time shows that whatever they have been using to support the Nigeria Police Force, they could have diverted into running their own state police. And since the Amotekun thing gained fame, and other states have joined, what have they been running those outfits with? Is it not money? It's about commitment. And as I keep saying at forums like this, there are two things you don't legislate for: integrity and decency. If most of those who govern us, the governing political elite, are decent and they have integrity, many of the problems we contend with or make noise about will not be there. So let nobody raise the issue of not would there be enough money to fund the police. There will be more than enough money. As a matter of fact, it may even help. Now that you have police, and you know what can happen when you don't fund your police well, but you have already armed them. You just turn them into official armed robbers. And that's a prospect that I don't think any governor wants to have on his hands.
Well, Prof, you mentioned Amotekun, and there are similar security agencies across the country. Yes. There are also non-state actors who are providing security, engaged by some of these governors who have set up their own response to the federal police. Now, what will happen to those structures? And don't you see the possibility of a conflict between the federal police and whatever state police emerges?
Now you have raised two issues. I'll help you disentangle them. The fate of existing official organizations doing police work. In other words, I've excluded non-state actors parading themselves as people doing police work in all manner of accoutrement. Some very funny. And then the issue of police-police relations. That's a topic that must be taken on board as we make progress with this state police thing. State police is here to stay because the man who is at the helm of affairs at the federal level had experimented with it in Lagos with the Neighborhood Watch, which has now graduated to the Lagos Safety Network Corps. So strictly speaking, Lagos already has state police. Now, the Amotekun thing, well, a wise governor will do what the colonialists did when they came out to govern, i.e. adopt and adapt existing structures, existing official structures for the purpose of policing the state. In other words, everybody who is Amotekun in Ondo now, I'm from Ondo State, so let me talk about it, should be allowed to transform and transfer into the Ondo State Police Command. It is the safest way to go because there will be no point before you legislate again for state police. These are the people you have been leaning on to help, whatever means. At this takeoff point, there cannot be too much attention paid to paper qualification. What you need for now are people who are ready to do the job, go into the forest, go into the far corners of the state and do the job of policing. As we make progress, you begin to weed out the undesirable elements either on the basis of qualification or conduct. A little citing of my research will help. When those who did police work in the palaces, who are the ones adopted by the colonialists to start the nucleus of what later became Native Authority Police and later in the Western Lagos Police, were recruited. They were from the palaces. But with time, educated elements were getting in. There was a case of one man in Ibadan, station officer. His better educated colleague was writing handover note, and then was writing too many was. So the man said, was very important. Was very important. In other words, you are writing too much grammar. Write this report and let us go. What that means is that we are going to have situations like that, because for now, this state policing, why it excites a scholar like me, dedicated researcher, is that it provides the opportunity to now separate proper police from those pretending to do police work. And the personnel that you recruit are already ready. Graduates of the universities, polytechnics, colleges of education, monotechnics, or whatever. So if paper qualification is the issue, you have more than enough. So you can get personnel. What is important, most important, as we start state police, is the quality of personnel. And that you do through training. And as I've said elsewhere, it is going to be useful at the takeoff point for states to band together and start one training school. In other words, Southwest, one training school, South-South, one training school, wherever. The 6 geopolitical zones. That is, they will jointly manage the training schools. Like many of these things that are joint, the contributions may be miserly from some, but those who can afford it, the richer ones can help their brothers. Just to take off. But the quality of instruction should be top-notch.
Okay, Prof, why are you so optimistic that the quality of training will be top-notch? When we have a Nigeria police force, and you know this condition of our police training colleges across the country, and many of these policemen who are rash citizens, who ignited the NSAS protest, many of them are products of this same police training college. What will make the states produce better policemen at the state level, when at the federal level, you know the reputation of our policemen?
Okay. I will not want to comment in extenso on the training of Nigeria police force policemen. I have a paper on it that I discussed at a seminar in Oxford. I call it the malformation of the Nigerian policeman and why he cannot give quality service or something like that. I wrote it, the paper was inspired by the struggle over a rotten fish head by trainees at the police college, Ikeja. That's the flagship police training school in Nigeria. Anyway, and President Jonathan, under whom you served, I suspect you were even with him that day. He was traveling out of the country, had to divert to go to the place to see for himself what was happening. This thing about state police, one of the things that we are likely to witness, very healthy rivalry between the federal government and the state. I'm confident, and I want to make this boast on behalf of the Lagos government, that once that thing kicks off, Lagos will want to show that we had long been in on this. Any training school, if Lagos chooses not to go with the other Southwest states, but to go solo, that the Lagos state government we found will be first class. That people from Police College Ikeja will be angling after wanting to go to train there. And I have given a private advice to a retired general. His village, somewhere in the Southwest, could be very good, or town, could be very good for starting a joint training school. Because while he was in the army, when they didn't know what else to do with him, they want to make him chief, started a reference hospital in his hometown. That would be a useful place to start off because that facility will be there for trainees. And so Prof, states can manage, they can run a very good training school. Yes.
Okay, Prof, you said rivalry between state police and federal police. How about conflicts, particularly during political seasons, and the possibilities of abuse and conflict rather than rivalry?
Now, this abuse thing that has been overflogged derives from two things. One, what is a policeman expected to do? What orientation has perfused the owning of police in post-colonial territories? I now start off by saying, when the colonialists went out to govern, they went with two philosophies of policing. One was for strangers to police strangers, the other one was for likes to police likes. That bit about strangers policing strangers is the one that undergirded the formation of the MPF. Now, but they allowed, where we found in centralized states, pre-colonial, they allowed those who were doing police duty in the palaces of emirs, of obas, to be appropriated for colonial purposes. Now, as the organizations developed, there were issues of cooperation. But before the dissolution of the Native Authority Police, after the collapse of the First Republic, indeed, there was more of cooperation than conflict. This buggy about what happened during political seasons, let nobody worry about that. We have only the Nigeria Police Force now. Is there not the challenge of misuse by the political governing elite? The longest chapter in my book is chapter 5, the police and politics. Why do politicians importing police for help? Why do policemen oblige? We can have another session on that. But when state police have come into being, the federal police will continue to do what they must do. But if where the officers leading the forces show common sense, there will be more of cooperation. The Nigeria Police Force personnel, because of poor number, are not enough to go around. We are hoping that with the state police, there will be more personnel who can do the work in more remote areas, bring knowledge of what is going on to the city or headquarters of commands, and then these things are looked into. Let us focus more on what we will gain about security of lives and property, rather than episodic misuse of the police during election time. It is not the exclusive challenge of state police or Native Authority police. No, the Nigeria Police Force, even in the First Republic, when the Eastern region didn't have Native Authority police, the Nigeria police personnel were also misused, or attempts were made to misuse them. But there will be more of cooperation. Let us look at the better future, the better side of this thing, and worry less about political misuse.
Okay, Prof. 36 states have a significant interest in state police. As at the last report, they were waiting for the Federal Capital Territory to join. But there must be a process. The Constitution will probably have to be amended. Section 214, which establishes a federal police force. Now, what other obstacles do you envisage? The Houses of Assembly could possibly say no, perhaps, or the police hierarchy could say, no, forget about state police. We have this, structure called community policing, which they used to talk about in the past.
Don't go near this community policing nonsense. Emphasis on nonsense, capital. While it lasted, but have you noticed that in the last 2 years, we have not had much of that noise called community policing? Which nonsense community policing? Now, community policing, while it lasted, was a donor agency-driven program. And community policing is not and should not be a program. Should be a philosophy. You build into the training of police personnel while in school about community inclusiveness. So now, community policing, what is community policing? While it lasted, an outgoing IG, we put an outgoing CP in charge of community policing. That is when new money might have just come in. The moment they both leave, the program goes into recession, and that's why no progress was made. And to be fair to some senior serious officers of my acquaintance, they confessed to me, Kemi, I don't know what this community policing thing is all about. But I won't go into the history this evening, because the man who started it, may Allah continue to forgive him his sins and rest his soul in Al-Jannah, had good intentions. President Obasanjo bought it from him, but things then went haywire between both of them, and then the rest is history. But I won't elaborate. Now, community policing, community policing, was what my NA police was all about while it lasted, especially as it was practiced in the Emirates of Northern Nigeria, especially still from 1928, when children of the nobility were encouraged to seek service in the native authority police of their domains, either as chief of police or councillors in charge of police. The first set had the likes of Usman Nagogo of Katsina, and he moved from that post to be Emir of Katsina, 1929 to 1944, and then became Emir in 1944 and lasted in 1981. The later set, you had Adobayero, a late Emir of Kano. Then you had the late Lamido of Adama, the father of the incumbent Lamido. Today I brought my book. If viewers can see it, the photograph on the cover of this book, that's that of late Ali Mustafa as chief of Adama Emirate Police. Now, that position became upwardly mobile. That was community policing par excellence, because as one interviewee, Kanu, told me then, the moment a job that had been exclusively for slaves became the duty of princes, there was a rush into the NA police, especially in the Emirates. And say what you may, Northern Nigeria was the safest part of Nigeria to live in before the crisis of the coup and aftermath. So, restoring state police, because what we're about to do is not actually creating state police. No, we are recreating the police. And therefore, the wisdom, what was thought to be the wisdom of 1966, when Hiroshi came, the baby and the bathwater thrown away, has now become the foolishness of 2020, whatever. But nations evolve. Even in the matter of policing, we are evolving. But let nobody think that we never had anything in our past in the matter of policing that we could have borrowed from. We did. But then, that was according to the light of the day. But now we know better. So subscribing to state police idea by the state governors is a welcome idea. To be fair to President Obasanjo, he was the first person to fly the kite with Sarumi as information minister. But when they flew the kite, it was not even welcome. And they just quietly allowed it to die.
Well, Prof.
But the challenge of Boko Haram and banditry over the years have now shown why we should have state police.
Well,
and
on
we are
that
going
note,
to have state police because President Tinubu had experimented with it as governor of Lagos.
Well, on that note, I would like to thank you very much, Professor Kemi Rotimi, for joining us on This Day Live, the Sunday talk show.